Jennifer, I love you so much I could die. A stranger let out a long sigh as the seductive Jenny twisted her body like a water snake and locked the door to the next room. The old house had terrible sound prowling. I pressed my hands desperately over my ears, sitting at my desk with no heart for studying. Jenny was our tenant. In my father's words, she was a woman who sold herself anyone could come and enjoy her. That even included my dad. If she couldn't pay the rent, he would simply collect it in other ways. In my mind, Jenny was an immodest, cheap woman. I was still in school at the time, and her receiving clients at home affected me deeply. Footsteps sounded outside, mixed with soft, lingering words. Feel good today? Come again tomorrow. Yeah, felt great. They'll drop by when I have time. The man unceremoniously pinched her full waist twice more before reluctantly saying, "You're such a slut." Jenny was voluptuous, her deep cleavage faintly visible. She took the 2 bills, smiling brightly as she saw him out. Once the man had left, Jenny's expression changed. Cheapskate. He haggled and shorted me 1 bill. Wasted all that effort on him for nothing. I sat in my room and watched as Jenny swayed her little hips, walking gracefully toward my door. I had to admit, Jenny had an incredible figure. There wasn't an ounce of sag anywhere on her body. She wore a pink body minus hugging camisolo that clung to her narrow waist, while just below it her hips swelled like a ripe peach. The thin strap of the camisolo rested on top, swaying back and forth with her movement, hinting at what lay beneath soft, tempting, and full of allure. "Ethan, go out and buy me a pack of toilet paper. Use the rest to buy whatever you want." As soon as she entered, she sat down beside me and gently leaned in close. I was writing, and my elbow was suddenly pressed against something soft and yielding, like sinking into a warm ocean that pulled me in deeper. The sensation made my heart stir with uneasy excitement. I pretended not to notice and secretly pressed my arm further into Jenny's chest. It was a feeling I had never experienced before. Jenny was quite a bit older than me, but she was beautiful with flawless skin. I had always thought of her as a mature older sister, and she treated me differently from the other men, actually very kindly. Yet here I was, secretly taking advantage of her, which instantly made me feel dirty and shameful. "Jenny, earning money isn't easy for you." I didn't want to accept her kindness, but when I tried to hand the bills back, she pushed them away. "No need to be polite. Just go quickly and come back soon." Jenny stroked my head, her smile carrying a natural seductive ins. Her loose wavy curls fell across the snowy whiteness of her chest, looking especially enchanting. My feelings were complicated. On one hand, I had just become an adult and was in the midst of puberty. I had the same desires as any young man. On the other hand, because of my father's constant belittling, I thought Jenny was too cheap enough that if I wanted her, she should be mine just like that. The fire in my chest burned back and forth. Finally, I gritted my teeth and forced my greedy gaze away from Jenny's tempting breasts. I went out, bought a pack of toilet paper, and came back. Our home was an old Tobias-shaped building from another era, cluttered with junk everywhere, which also bred shadows and darkness just like my conflicted feelings toward Jenny. I took out my key, opened the door. Jenny was sitting on the toilet. She didn't care much about privacy. The door was only half closed. Hearing me return, she immediately called out for me to bring the toilet paper in. "Ethan, hand me a roll." "Okay." While changing my shoes, I glanced sideways through the gap in the door. Jenny had her legs spread, her fingers with pink nail polish lifting the hem of her skirt. She squatted down, and the sight made my eyes brighten. I swallowed a mouthful of dry saliva, opened the package, took out a roll, and shakily handed it over. "Ethan, do you dislike me?" Her words instantly threw my mind into chaos. What did she mean? Why was I standing so far away, afraid of touching her? I steadied myself. "No, I'm just a little embarrassed." Jenny continued. "That guy earlier was so annoying. He didn't even make me feel good." I saw that Jenny's face was also slightly flushed. I was completely captivated by her expression. I had always felt she should be a big star instead of living in a dump like this. Ethan, am I beautiful? Jenny suddenly grabbed my hand and asked with a smile, looking every bit like a seductive fox spirit. Yes, you are. Then what are you still waiting for? Jenny pressed my hand down. It felt as if my hand was no longer under my control. I felt a powerful urge to act like a man. I took a deep breath, looking at Jenny sitting on the toilet, seemingly lost in desire. Suddenly my mind went blank. I leaned in and kissed her cherry hample. Her lips were incredibly soft and carried a sweet fragrance. No, Ethan, this isn't right. I didn't answer. I brushed away the hands trying to stop me and pressed down hard on her body, kissing her fiercely while reaching to pull off her clothes. Jenny's mouth was covered by mine, so she could only make muffled whimpers, but I clearly felt her tongue responding with eager excitement. I wanted nothing more than to lose myself in her soft, yielding world. Jenny's hands gripped my back tightly. The bathroom filled with rising heat and her breathing grew louder and heavier. I was desperate to move past this prelude, but then the sound of the front door opening came from outside. My dad had returned. He was a laborer who did heavy work every day, but he always took pride in having a son with excellent grades. The moment he stepped inside, he heard Jenny's panting coming from the bathroom. At first he thought it was just another one of her client's little games, but then he suddenly saw me rushing out in a panic. I instantly saw my dad explode with rage. Who the fuck told you to touch my son? HES still in college. You think HES the same as the trash you usually see? He shoved me out the door, then turned and stormed into the bathroom, slamming it shut behind him. I heard the sounds of him beating Jennifer. He grabbed Jennifer by the hair as his fists rained down on her, followed by the sharp crack of his belt whipping across her back. Jennifer let out a few miserable screams. Through the frosted glass door, I could see the shadow of my dad overpowering Jennifer. He pinned Jennifer's wrists, forced her down over the sink, and with every strike he snarled, "You dare touch my son again?" "No, I won't. I won't," she begged. Once he heard Jennifer's pleading, my dad seemed satisfied. He gripped her waist and poured out all the frustration he had carried home that day, venting everything on her body. Her sharp cries echoed through the bathroom. When he finally came out, his shoulders were relaxed and a smug smile hung on his face. "Feels fucking good," he muttered. Then, just like that, he switched back to his strict menace father face. "You need to get your act together. There are plenty of good women out there in the future. Find yourself a proper, pretty girl. Trash like her isn't worthy of you." I was still stunned by what I had just witnessed. Under his stern gaze, I could only nod. "All right, good boy. Go, eat. I bought you roast chicken." I glanced at Jennifer, who had collapsed on the bathroom floor, and didn't know what to do. My dad was wrong. At least he had no right to hit Jennifer. He was just a tenant. But in reality, whoever has the stronger fists makes the rules. Besides, in this expensive city, Jennifer had nowhere better to go. My dad had always drilled into me that I had to study hard, get ahead in life, and one day afford a big house. Otherwise I'd end up like them, squeezed into this coffin menace like little room forever. That kind of thinking had turned me into a quiet, withdrawn machine that only knew how to study. The next day, while my dad was out at work, Jennifer came to my room again. "Ethan, help me put some medicine on. Will you? My back hurts and I could reach." Yesterday's beating had left dark bruises all over her back. As soon as she entered my room, she climbed onto the bed and lay face down. The thin pink camisolo slipped off her shoulder, sliding down until it barely covered her full, snowmanus white breasts. I swallowed hard, remembering my dad's furious face. "Aren't you afraid my dad might suddenly come back?" "He definitely won't have time," she said, handing me a bottle of medicated oil. She looked up and smiled at me, her spring menace-like charm brushing across her cheeks. Seductive and captivating. I couldn't resist. I poured the oil into my palms and gently spread it over her fair back, stroking softly. While biting her lip against the pain, Jennifer kept talking to me. I asked her, "My dad hitting you like that was obviously wrong. Why didn't you fight back?" "Why fight back?" Her hand wandered along my thigh. "Only your dad gives me such cheap rent and even leaves his precious son here to keep me company. That's pretty nice, isn't it?" Her words stirred something in me again. She continued, "You're still studying, right? I like college boys the most. They're educated, cultured, and gentle when they do things. Ethan, you have to work hard." She looked at me with genuine envy. I felt a pang of shame because I was actually lost. I didn't even know what I was living for. All the hard work and effort felt like nothing but a false front. The long-hair repression had pushed me to the edge of a silence that was about to burst. "Yesterday, I shouldn't have done that to you and got you beaten by my dad." The rest of the sentence grew more and more embarrassing as I spoke. But Jennifer simply changed the subject. "Was I beautiful yesterday?" The question caught me off guard. "Beautiful? Do you want to see it again?" Suddenly the images from the day before flooded back, every scene replaying in my mind at night. "Auntie wants to see yours too." It was as if she could read my thoughts. And during the pain, she pushed herself up. Her to snow, reached over and undid my belt for me. That day, while my dad was away, Jennifer and I did things we definitely shouldn't have done. Only then did I understand what people meant by the gentle homeland, a place so intoxicating you could lose yourself completely and never want to wake up. But from that day on, I gradually found it harder and harder to accept the way Jennifer received clients at home. Every time I saw those men treating her roughly while she still had to kneel and smile sweetly for them, a ball of anger burned in my chest. I once asked her, "If one day I make a lot of money enough to cover everything, would you stop taking clients?" She didn't answer directly. Silly boy, who knows when that day will come. Then she pulled me into her room and gave me everything I wanted. After it happened several times, I started wondering why Jennifer was doing all this for me without asking for anything in return. The answer only came later, through something a friend said. I had a classmate who was extremely arrogant and only went to college to kill time. During class, he secretly bragged to me that yesterday he had gone to see a working girl. Because it was his first time, not only did she not charge him, she even gave him a red envelope. See? Those women have this kind of kink. After being played with by other men, they want to play back. It's called emotional balance. You should try it too. You're still a virgin, right? I felt strange inside. I told him I wasn't anymore. The moment he heard that, he got excited and insisted on knowing how my first time happened. I said it was similar. Before I could finish, he interrupted curiously. "So did she give you a red envelope too?" "No." I started to say, but he cut me off again. "Fuck. You got taken advantage of? She played you for free." After that, I couldn't help suspecting that Jennifer felt the same way, that after finishing with her clients, she would seduce me to balance things out. But I never asked her. I was afraid that bringing it up would only lead to bad results. I carried that still minus uncertain answer with me, and in the days that followed, he and I remained tangled in that strange, tense relationship. He loved to slip into my room when there were no guests and just watch me. Sometimes he would stand by the window in that little slip dress, all gazing out at the passers-by on the street. Sunlight would pour in, and he looked so sweet, almost either really pure, like something untouched by the world. "Athin," he said softly one afternoon, "I wish I could turn into a bird that can fly anywhere, completely free." In reality, he couldn't go anywhere. He was stuck here, cheaply serving whoever walked through the door. I couldn't help asking, "Weren't you free before?" The question seemed to confuse him. "Not really. There were so many kids at home, and my parents were obsessed with carrying on the family line to pay for my little brother's schooling." He trailed off with a light wave of his hand, clearly reluctant to say more. I already knew Jennifer wasn't his real name anyway. I stepped behind him and wrapped my arms around his waist. He turned, cupped my face, and we melted into a gentle, lingering kiss. A month later, it was time to pay the rent again. Because I had been taking up so much of his time, Jennifer had entertained far fewer clients, and the rent was becoming a problem. "Can you give us a few more days?" My father considered it for a moment, then shook his head. "No. I'm supposed to take my qualification exam soon. After that, I'll definitely need money. How about I pay half now and the rest in a few days?" My father wouldn't budge. He forced Jennifer to hand over half the money right then. The truth was, after sending her usual remittance home every month, there wasn't much left for herself. My father, with his rigid way of thinking, was convinced Jennifer was just trying to pay with her body. To him, that was nothing but deception. He exploded. "You think you can play games with me?" Before the words were even finished, he raised his hand and slapped Jennifer hard across the face. The last time he had hit Jennifer, it had taken days to recover. Seeing my father's violent temper flare up again, I panicked and jumped in front of Jennifer. "Nose." I immediately rushed back and spread my arms wide, shielding Jennifer completely. He looked bewildered by how fiercely I was protecting her. "What the hell are you doing?" "I'm your father. What is she to you? Why are you shielding her?" I said, "Hitting people is wrong. She has done anything to deserve it." Standing in front of my tyrannical father, I don't know where I found the courage to speak those words, but I did. My father's face twisted with shock and rage. He was about to punch me when Jennifer suddenly lunged forward and pulled me away. I cried out, "If you're going to hit someone, get me. Why are you hitting Ethan? She didn't do anything wrong." It might have been reflex, or maybe fear, but the next moment Jennifer and I were clinging to each other. That single action made everything clear to my father. "You two, I warned you so many times not to touch my son, but you wouldn't listen. How can she be the same as you?" He ripped off his belt, ready to beat us to death. I knew there was no point trying to reason with him. He only understood violence. I gathered all my strength and shoved my father as hard as I could. Caught off guard, he stumbled backward and fell onto the sofa. In the next instant, he looked ready to kill. I seized the chance, grabbed Jennifer, and we fled the house. Behind us, my father's roar shook the walls. "If you run, don't you dare come back. You've completely disgraced me. You want that kind of woman? You idiot." No matter what he shouted, I wasn't listening. I pulled Jennifer and we ran until we were far away. That night it was raining hard. We had rushed out so quickly that neither of us was wearing much. I was only in a tank top, and the heavy rain quickly soaked me through. It was freezing. The two of us huddled together under an eave with nowhere to go. By midnight I was shivering uncontrollably. Jennifer touched my forehead and whispered, "You're burning up." After a moment's hesitation, she clenched her teeth and led me straight into a nearby hotel. We had no money, but somehow Jennifer managed to get us a room. "Ethan, wait here. I'll be right back." I murmured agreement and closed my eyes. I must have dozed off for about 10 minutes before I woke again. I heard sounds coming from the bathroom. When I looked up, I saw a hotel staff member inside, holding Jennifer against the large transparent glass. Jennifer's clothes had been pulled down, her hands pressed against the window as she tried to stifle her voice while desperately meeting the man's movements. The glass was probably meant for that kind of thrill, wide and completely clear, so I saw everything. I didn't know what I felt. All I knew was that I was stupid, so incredibly stupid. This was my fault. I had dragged Jennifer into homelessness with me. My head was pounding with fever. Dizzy and sick, I drifted off again. The fever raged on until the early hours of the morning, when I finally felt Jennifer gently waking me. She had brought fever medicine. My throat hurt so badly that swallowing was difficult. She couldn't prop me up properly, so she took the pill into her own mouth with some water, then kissed it into mine. After the medicine, I started to feel a little better. For the next few days I didn't dare go home. Jennifer used her connection with the hotel staff to let us stay for free. She told them I was her little brother. Some time later, the day of my exam arrived. Jennifer kept urging me to go. My grades were excellent. If I took the test, I would have a stable job. But right then, I turned stubborn. I didn't want to take it. How can you say that? She was frantic, pushing me toward the door. When I still wouldn't move, she slapped me twice. It was the first time I had ever seen her so fierce. Over a little while, she burst into loud sobs, saying that if I didn't go take the exam, she would never forgive me for the rest of her life. She even told me that if I refused, she would walk out and let herself get hit by a car and die. She kept scolding me like that for a long time. I couldn't hold out against her, so I let her drag me to the examination hall. The real reason I didn't want to go was that I didn't want to see my dad. I knew he would definitely be waiting at the entrance, ready for me to walk right into his trap. Sure enough, as soon as we arrived, I spotted him. He rushed over and grabbed me in an instant, while Jenny's face turned deathly pale with fright. "Let's do the exam first," my dad said. In that moment, his tone had softened completely. "We'll talk about everything after you finish. I won't hit anyone anymore." Hearing the pleading in his voice, I suddenly felt a little relieved. At the same time, I felt stupid. All those years of hard work had been for this very day, hadn't they? Fine. I'd take the exam first and deal with the rest later. I glanced at Jenny, then walked into the exam room. Maybe because my mood had lifted, I felt like I performed pretty well. But when I finished the paper and walked out of the hall, only my dad was there. Jenny was gone. He couldn't explain it clearly. "Let's just go home first." She kept stammering and never gave a real reason. But the moment we got home, I never saw Jenny again. According to what my dad later recalled, he said Jenny had left right after dropping me off. He didn't even ask for that month's rent, calling it even between them. But I knew there would never be any evening of scores between us. It was only years later, after I had been beaten down by society and finally found success, that I confirmed the answer I had kept hidden in my heart and never dared to ask. A woman who knew there was no possibility at all still chose to stand with you in the rain, to take care of you when you were sick, and to help you make the right choice at the most critical moment. That was